Welcome to Advocacy Exchange Injury and Tagline.
Hello and welcome back to Advocacy Exchange, Navigating Texas Injury Law with Larry Littleton. Larry is senior counsel and the founder of Littleton Law Firm. He's been fighting for injured Texans since 1976 and has recovered millions on behalf of his clients. Today, we are talking about what happens when medical treatment doesn't go as planned and how lingering or worsening injuries can impact your legal case. My name is Kevin Rosenquist. Larry, great to be with you.
Oh, it's great to be here. Answer them questions. That's what I'm for.
All right. Well, let's start with the reality many people face. What happens when a client's injuries don't improve the way they or their doctors expected after an accident?
Well, if you have a situation where the injuries are not going to get any better, it's whether there's got a problem associated with either there is a context problem, the injury itself, a continuum of an infection, ancillary matters that are affecting the recovery. Many of those things that we already anticipate when we do the intake. A typical example, if we've got someone that is in a treatment for kidney problems, say a second or third stage problems associated with it, there are many types of medication they can't take, especially the steroids. And steroids is one of the major components and used for treatment of any inflammatory or any kind of a swelling type situation. So what we do on the intake is we get a little bit of a medical information about the client. We want to make sure that the doctor that is treating that patient knows that. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the patient doesn't give all the information they should. So during the intake, we're talk to the client, say, look, you make sure you tell the tell the doctor everything that you've got involved in it, the pills you're taking, any kind of conditions you have, to make sure that the medication is prescribed and the conditions are known to the doctor. That takes care of most of the problems associated with the preliminary and long-term problems associated with the treatment not working. Getting that intake done correctly.
From a case management standpoint, how does your team approach these situations where someone's initial treatment plan just isn't working?
Well, we have 3 access points. One access point, as soon as the intake is completed and treatment is started, we have an individual who is assigned to do only the medical treatment. They monitor it. They make sure that all of the circumstances concerning the appointments are done. If there's a request by a physician for treatment or special testing or whatever needs to be done, that person assigned in my office takes care of that. So the client doesn't have to worry about time, place, where, how I'm going to get there, that kind of thing. It's my personnel take care of all of it. The second part of it is if there is a situation where the client has got a question about the treatment, the case manager normally has all of that treatment protocol already ready to go. For example, when a person has a neck injury or a back injury and it's sore muscles and we don't have anything to indicate a severe injury, there's a normal protocol medical that goes through for approximately 4 to 6 weeks. And so those things are taken care of at intake. But if there's a question that occurs, then the case manager answers the question. What we want to make sure is whatever's going on in our client's life, medically or whatever, it needs to be something to where they can have an immediate contact to take care of the problem. That's what the case manager does. If there is severe problems or some kind of a situation that's unusual, then we will have it taken care of. Either the case manager comes to my office and we talk about it, or it can come up on our Monday meetings. Our Monday meetings is we go over every kind of problem associated with medical treatment that any patient or any client, any kind of problem going on that is unusual, or we want to make sure we go to the next step. The whole process is to make sure that nothing is dropped, making sure everything is consistent with the protocol that most doctors follow, making sure that client understands. That is important to be able to make sure it's completed and done well.
All right. Well, is it common that people would need second opinions, specialist referrals, or even surgery later in the process?
Oh yeah, it depends on the circumstance, obviously the injury. It's sometimes many of the protocols for physical therapy have to go through a 4 to 6 week period of time, for example, for that to be completed before there's a referral to pain management, neurology, or orthopedic. Because the first questions those doctors are going to ask, Well, what kind of treatment have you completed so far? So letting the client know that it's going to take some time, letting
Hmm.
the client know what those protocols mean, what they're going to do, what's going to happen on that daily event, and then letting them know if that doesn't solve the problem, we have another stage and we describe what that stage is, depending on what the doctor recommends.
Hmm. That could potentially push out the case and affect the timeline quite substantially, I would imagine.
Oh, yes, you can have situations where we can have a recommendation for surgery, and the surgical procedures and things that they're outlining are such that they are will take a long time to recover. They may be very expensive. They may be something that is frightening the client. If we feel that there is a little bit of problem with it, we will recommend the client get a second opinion to see if there is an agreement between the two doctors. For most instances, doctors agree pretty much on the same procedures. Some take a little bit longer. Sometimes they want to change the medication. But generally speaking, the protocols for these kinds of injuries are pretty well set in stone. Once they go through stage one, two, and three, and then it's a recommendation for surgery or some sort of intervention. Some kinds of intervention are not really surgery. Sometimes the ESI, sometimes it's going to be a nerve block. There are various kinds of techniques that pain control doctors can use in order to be able to isolate what the problem is and properly diagnose what the problem is. So, again, it is making sure that the client is fully informed.
Yeah, and I know insurance companies will use whatever tactics they can. Do they try to use failed treatment or prolonged systems to potentially argue that the injuries aren't real or that the client might be exaggerating?
Well, part of the problem is eliminated because we keep the insurance adjuster their knowledge of what's going on in the case is current. So if we're going through physical therapy, the adjuster knows that we're going through physical therapy. If there is a change in needing for a specialist to be involved, we let them know the specialist is being involved. So that pretty well keeps their file updated. If we have a period of time of inactivity, then we try to make sure that the client is telling the doctor what's going on. The doctor may recommend, let's do it this way. You've done the 6 weeks worth of physical therapy. Let's give it a couple of months and see how well you do. That's very common. As long as the doctor is recommending it, it's in his record, it's not a problem taking care of it later on in the case. Usually, the problem comes in is where the diagnosis and the treatment has all been completed, and the client's still having problems, and they have decided they don't want to do anything else. They want to give it time. And of course, our argument there is simply, most people don't just jump into surgery. Nobody wants to end up in a hospital or in a recovery room. So it depends on the circumstances. It depends on the diagnosis, what the current doctor's prognosis is, what the future treatment is going to be. So, yes, they can be a part of the problem, but no, there's always a solution because we use the truth of what the reasons going on with that client's treatment. They already knew it was coming, it happened, and now we're trying to tell them that this man didn't jump into a surgery room. Who does?
Hmm. Right. Yeah. And how do you help clients document the progression of their condition, especially when the path to recovery takes some of these unexpected turns?
In the initial interview with the client, we outline various things that may happen generally. During the development of the case, if the case manager detects that this is going to be requiring surgery or some sort of intervention, then there is a discussion held with the client. If that client has questions or doesn't seem comfortable with the answers of the case manager, then I make a phone call myself. And the reason for it is I think what happens with most clients is they get used to the case manager, they get used to the doctors and the treatment, and they want to make sure that they're on the right road, that they're following the protocol to make sure their case and all of the things involved in it are useful. But what we do is we emphasize that what's going on in your case and what's going on for the health, your well being, and recovery is two different things. You don't worry about the legal matter. We'll handle that, whatever happens.
Mhm.
What you need to be concerned is get healed, get back on your feet. and get this thing the rest of your life on the ball here.
Hmm.
And we try to draw a distinction between the two. Don't worry about what's going on in your case, what the legal ramifications are, or what this is going to help or not help. That's irrelevant. Your health is the primary problem. Get it done. That's what we emphasize.
Yeah, I got to believe that. I mean, managing helping clients manage the stress and frustration that can come with these ongoing symptoms, delayed recovery, a drawn out trial, that's got to be sometimes difficult for you.
Oh yes, I mean it's sometimes you get to the point to where you're starting to feel what they feel.
Yeah.
You start having that frustration in your own voice. But again, it is just knowing what most likely the protocols, treatment sequence, what kind of prognosis involved, assuring them. Sometimes it's explaining medical terms. Sometimes it's explaining the basis of why they're objecting to it or what the circumstances are. But clients don't expect miracles. They just expect to make sure their circumstances are the best they can get medically, and they the best they can get in reference to what the law allows. As long as there's communication between the lawyer and the client, it all goes down like it's supposed to, what it was intended to be the best type of system for compensation available. Never adequate, but the best.
Hmm. How do these kinds of long-term injuries we've been talking about affect the value of a case? How do you build a claim that will reflect future needs?
If we have a situation where we've had, let's say, surgery, we've had a back surgery, we already know that it's going to take a year before there's a complete healing. We know that there's going to be a set of physical therapy requirements, and the therapy is very painful. Those therapies for being able to regain the elasticity of the various injuries to be able to accomplish the kinds of tasks a person was doing before all takes time. So it's just like when you meet with your doctor, the doctor talks about the surgery and then said, okay, we're all set. Do you have any questions? Well, we pretty well know what that client's questions are going to be. And so by having them armed with enough information, that allows them to be able to ask pertinent questions to the doctor.
Hmm.
Uh, yes, the outlining of the treatment is important, and if we've got a devastating injury or one that we know is going to be very, very long recovery, we require each of our clients to have a diary, and the diary is daily or how often they want to enter the information, and it's not limited to I went to a doctor appointment and he looked at me or an MRI was scheduled or that kind of thing. It's what they're thinking, what they're feeling. That kind of diary not only is helpful for the proper treatment, but it also reminds the client what they went through at that time. So if we're sitting in a case 3 years from now in a deposition and we're trying to go over what was going on in his mind during this recovery, it's right there. That's what he
Hmm.
said. That's what the problem was. An entry like, it's been 6 weeks of therapy. I look like I may have to have surgery. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to pay the light bill. Okay, those kinds of things in a diary allows a jury to understand better what circumstances existed, how it affected them, and it makes them have a connection with the client. These are real people with real problems.
Yeah, the illustration that gives, the mental illustration that gives to hear those day-to-day words. It's not just a recollection, it's actually what's happening in real time. Yeah, I can imagine that is pretty impactful in a trial.
I think the last part of it is to remember that whatever happens in their life may be trivial to them. Whatever happens in their treatment and going back and forth to the doctor may be something mundane. But when you put it together on a timeline, along with the usages of those notes from that diary, they impact that jury. They see what's going on, they know what this person went through. And that is what the key is. The closer we can get all of the facts, all of the medical treatment in front of a jury as realistic as possible, that's what the job of the lawyer is, to make sure it's done.
To finish up here, for someone listening who's months into treatment and still struggling, what would you say to them about their options, both medically and legally?
Well, depending on what their injuries are and depending on what their set of circumstances are, the general comment is just as simply, look, we're going to make it. We're going to get through this. I don't care what the legal matters are. I don't care what the medical are. We're going to walk you through every step. We're going to get through every treatment. You're going to understand what your alternatives are. You're not going to be alone. I sound like an advertisement there, but the point is that we are there to walk right beside you, to answer your questions, to take care of those problems that are necessary, and hopefully get them resolved quickly. Not always, but hopefully they will be resolved.
I like that. Well, thanks for that, Larry. And thank you for listening to today's episode of Advocacy Exchange, Navigating Texas Injury Law. If you're dealing with ongoing medical issues after an accident and don't know what to do next, visit littletonlawfirm.com to connect with Larry and his team. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. We very much appreciate it. Larry, always great chatting with you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.